This video is intended to present the viewer with a basic Sling chair installation from start to finish. Please keep in mind that all installations will vary by chair type, and this video should be used as a general guideline for installation. This installation will require some basic tools, so be sure to have these items handy before beginning. Use a flat blade screwdriver to carefully pry off and remove the end caps from the chair frame. The easiest way to remove the old sling is to slice it down the middle using a utility knife or heavy-duty scissors. Over time, the slings will harden and stick to the inside of the sling rail. Using both hands, break the sling material free by pushing it back inside the sling rail. In addition, you may also use a small flat-bladed screwdriver inside the sling rail to help dislodge the sling fabric. Spray the sling rails with a watered-down dishwashing soap. The soap helps to loosen the old material from the sling rail, making it easier to remove. Grasp the end of the sling material with a pair of pliers and remove it from both chair sling rails using a sharp pulling motion. Using the appropriate tool, begin disassembling the chair frame by completely removing one of the sling rails and all the spreader bars. Be sure to save the hardware since you will need it for reinstallation. Leave one of the chair sling rails attached to the frame and back the bolts out as far as possible without completely removing them. Insert the supplied sling spline into each side of the new sling. The sling spline will be longer than necessary, but do not trim away the excess until later in the installation process. Slide the replacement sling material into both chair sling rails. Use one hand to feed the material through the top of the sling rail while the other pulls the fabric. Be sure to keep the chair care patio tag at the top of the chair, as this differentiates the top and the bottom of the sling. Pull the sling material down until it is even with both sling rails. Once the chair sling is flush with the bottom of both sling rails, reinsert the bolts into the bottom of the chair frame and tighten. When tightening the bolts, be sure to alternate back and forth between the two bolts. Tightening the bottom bolts will keep the bottom of the sling tight and in place for the next step. Now eliminate any wrinkles left in the bed of the seat by stretching the fabric upward. Position yourself behind the chair and use pliers to stretch the sling upward to the edge of the sling rail so that both fabric and sling rail are even. At this point, use clamps or have someone hold the chair sling in place while you tighten the remaining bolts. After tightening the bolts on the chair back, your new sling should be tight. If your chair was equipped with spreader bars, they must be reinserted. In most situations, the spreader bar will appear too large to fit back into place. Try bending the spreader bar over your knee just enough to allow the spreader bar to fit into place. After bending, insert one end of the spreader bar into the hole in the chair rail and carefully pry it into place. Once in place, hit the center of the bar with a rubber mallet until tight. If you cannot bend the spreader bar, a spreader tool will be needed to spread the sling rails apart, allowing room for the spreader bar. A spreader tool can be rented or purchased through chaircarepatio.com. Twist the ends of the spreader tool until it fits snug between the two sling rails. Attach clamps to both ends of the spreader tool to prevent movement. Use a 3/4 inch wrench to turn the center post of the spreader tool. This spreads the two ends apart from each other, allowing room for the spreader bar to be inserted. Once separated, put the spreader bar into position and turn the center post of the spreader tool in the opposite direction to release it from the chair frame. Cut all excess spline with scissors or pliers and reinstall the end caps into the sling rails by lightly tapping them with a rubber mallet.